AmandaLand, AmandaLand, AmandaLand. Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Views from AmandaLand, your news and truths by any joke necessary. Happy to have everybody here. Thank you for waking up on the right side of history. I mean, at this point, y'all should always know I need like a 15-minute grace sometimes. I need a 15-minute grace, okay? Because in order for me to remain sane, I have to write the show in the morning. Like, that's really what it is. But here's the biggest issue. Until I finish my book, my nights end later than they should. And so then I wake up. See? Evelyn got me. She said, you were up late last night. Exactly. So because I'm like doing multiple things, my nights end later than they should. Now, when I get back to my 10 p.m. night, we gonna be in real good places because then I'll be waking up at 7 a.m. Okay. And when I wake up at 7 a.m., I got hours. I want y'all to know that I wrote today's show in an hour. Okay. I wrote today's show in an hour. Now, you know what, GS? I'm still working out of the trauma of being on Instagram. And so when I read this comment, did you sell out by this AM? I was really about to tell the moderators to get you out of here because that's the type of mess I would be dealing with on Instagram. But I realized that you are referring to my products in the Love is a Mother drop. That is what you're referring to. Okay. That is what you're referring to. Now, Sandy and Rolando and Elijah was on deck, but that's what you were actually referring to. And I am so appreciative and thank you for asking. Yes, I did sell out of the bundles and the pins. I did sell out of the bundles and the pins. But you see how trauma can get you? You see? Fist up. Did I sell out by this morning? What you trying to say? What you trying to say? So we're healing. We're healing. I was on Instagram. I was on YouTube Live last night, talking about that, talking about, wait, do I have therapy today? Hold on. I sure do. We need to get going. Okay. Hold on. I sure do. We can't do a 3-hour show because I got therapy today. All right. But we were doing a live last night and I was talking about a number of things that I think were worth listening to. So make sure you go and check that out. And again, the Love is a Mother drop has ceased. It is finished. But you guys, thank you so much for supporting and for, showing me that these products are wanted and are enthusiastically received. So I'll be getting those shipments out shortly. And no, the French lady, that's not what I put out in the stratosphere. That's what I have received from the stratosphere. So at some point, I would love for us to stop victim blaming. I really would. I would just love for it because that's the conversation I'm gonna have with my therapist today. There is such a thing as people being antagonistic. There is such a thing as people being bullies. There is such a thing as people being snide without solicitation. That is such a thing. So when we act as if that's not a thing, we are again not holding the people accountable who are doing that thing. And it took my friend Kiki being with me at that party in 2019 to see, oh, people really do be attacking you for no reason. Yes. Sometimes their reasons are not reasons that I would consider to be valid. However, I think there's something very real in not continuously telling people, well, if you didn't exist how you do, then people wouldn't be mean to you for no reason, who are existing in ways that are simply just not indicative or not intentionally trying to bring that in. And by the way, I had said, no one has ever said that I was difficult to work with who's actually worked with me. And somebody was like, well, Chris Diggy said that. And I just wanted to address that Chris Diggy did not work with me. He worked for me. So that's different. He didn't work with me. He worked for me. And working for me is difficult. Absolutely. I have very little patience for errors. I am constantly doing a million things and need people to just be on their stuff. And when they're not, I'm like, it's problematic. So yeah, he is correct. It was difficult working for me. Because I'm so high level. And so now I only work with people who are also high level. And it's fabulous. So shout to Kathia and Nicole and Justin and Tiara and Rebecca and Brendan, who are high level, honey. Okay? High level. Which is why Nicole left and came back. Rebecca left and came back. Brendan left and came back. Did you see Captain Jazz? Not your average seals. Honey, not your average seals. We have a great show today. We have Black Around the World. Yay! We have Black Around the World. We have attorney Portia M. Wood will be joining us from Portugal. She emigrated to Portugal last year. So she is going to be joining us to talk about what it is being a Black American who has emigrated to Portugal in Europe. So we are going to show out and it's going to be a great time. And, just a side note, because KB's asking here how to find high level people without finding out later than needed. It's difficult. And you know what I think a lot of the problem is for why is because it took a long time for me to admit without shame that I'm a high level person, because we are basically taught that thinking that about yourself is immodest. We're taught that thinking that about yourself is conceited. We're taught that thinking that about yourself is somehow marking you as not humble. When the reality is that when you don't acknowledge realities around yourself, you actually end up humiliating yourself and someone else. And being somebody who is a high level person in terms of how I do my work, etc., does not make me better than somebody else, but it does mean that my standards and that my expectations are going to be at a certain measure, and it's genuinely unfair to bring people into that don't meet that. And I am actually doing a disservice to them by not being honest about what I am, right? So we all have to be honest about things. Like, I am a low-level person when it comes to working out. I hate working out. I have very terrible discipline about working out. Some people are really great with that regimen. I am a low-level workouter. Am I strong? I'm very strong, honey. I'm very strong. But I don't want to do it. That's why Taekwondo is great, because by the time we get to the workout portion, I'm already locked in. I've committed, my energy is up, and I feel like Master Michael also understands the limits. I do feel like he also understands the limits. And I want to shout out to Adrienne, who understands that there is no limit. She said, I don't mind being high level, and 2 asterisks extra. Smiley face. Okay. Oh my God, Tiffany DeJesus ran into a fellow SEAL Squad member at a concert last night. Yay! Well, shout out to the SEAL Squad. Remember, you can join the SEAL Squad by subscribing at patreon.com, Amanda Seals. For those who don't know, that is my salary. The SEAL Squad is my salary. Yeah. That is my salary. So thank you to everyone who is supporting. Nia says Attorney Wood is the real deal. I heard about her through a Small Doses episode. Yes. Portia M. Wood is an estate trust attorney. So she is going to be joining us to talk about a number of things. And I love this quote from Hamid. Humility in the face of immorality soon lends to misuse. Correct. All right. So really looking forward to tomorrow. We have Logan Grendel joining us. If you don't follow Logan on Instagram, you are missing out. Logan is a brilliant mind and a depth of character that I'm so excited to join us. And we will also have Maurice Mitchell from the Working Families Party joining us tomorrow. So that is all going to be going down right here at Views from AmandaLand. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great episode. Send me your questions. If you have questions, drop them in the chat for Maurice Mitchell of the Working Families Party. They asked me if we have anything that I wanted them to prep. And I really was like thinking to myself, like, actually, I mean, I really kind of don't, because I just want to know. Like, I mean, I'm starting from scratch. You know what I'm saying? So I'm starting from scratch. But nonetheless, please drop your questions in here, okay? And we have a great show today, and I've got a lot to share with you. So let's get into it. Oh my gosh, shooby dooby 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 doo. Yeah. AmandaLanders here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. Come on, AmandaLanders, let's get this roll call cracking. Ooh, AmandaLanders here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. Levon is down in San Diego. We got Charleston, South Carolina. We got Alexandria, Virginia. Shout out to John C. Waterloo, Iowa in the house. Dallas, Fort Worth, Tejas. We got North Carolina, which we'll be talking about today. Bloomfield, New Jersey. Brooklyn. Mameli, what's going on in South Africa? Lafayette, Lausanne. Olive Branch, Mississippi. San Diego again. Staten Island, New York City. We got Hamid in the Lou watching from Philly. We got TB. Harlem. Stafford, Virginia. Delaware. Dallas. Tokyo, Japan. AmandaLanders here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. We got Chicago, Jacksonville, Dubai. We got Colorado, Saudi Arabia. Shout out to Fahad. Actually, I should say, Assalamu alaikum. We got Farah in The Hague, Netherlands. We got Antigua, Dublin, Ireland. And of course, Reese Roberts is in London, Puerto Rico. We got Brazil, Chris Cavallo, what's going on? We got the LBC and Kansas City. Watley, Alabama is in the house right here at Views from AmandaLand. AmandaLanders here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. We got Vancouver, the UK, Roanoke, Virginia. Is this our first time getting Denmark? This might be our first time getting Denmark, y'all. AmandaLanders here to learn. Thank you for telling me where you're watching from. Yay! Y'all, I think Denmark might be up first. It is. Yeah, we don't got Denmark on the map. Yay! We had one back in December, but I don't think we had the map then, John. I don't think we had the map in December. Remember, that was when we first started. But shout out to you for being a day oneer. Okay. Well, it's on the map now. And I didn't even have a pin up here for the Netherlands. So let me give you your pin too. Yeah. Look at that. Shout out to Senegal in the building. We got you on the map. Wait, did I not mark? Boop, 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 boop. I know we've had Senegal before, but I did not mark it on the map. Look at that. Dakar, Senegal. Oh my God. We are so worldwide. I love us. Rio de Janeiro is in the building. Did we have Rio on here? I know we had Sao Paulo. Okay, we did not have Rio on here. We had Sao Paulo, and we have what's it called? Belo Horizonte. So let me get Rio. Bam. Tall and tan and young and handsome, the boy from Ipanema goes walking, and when he passes, each girl he passes goes, ah. When he moves, it's like a samba that zing, zoom, zoom, and sking, ding, 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 ding. When he passes, each girl he passes goes, ah. Oh, how I watch him so sadly. How can I tell him I love him? Oh, how I watch him so badly. When he goes for a stroll by the sea, he looks straight ahead, not at me. Down and young and handsome, the boy from Ipanema goes walking, and when he passes, I smile, but he doesn't see. No, 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 he doesn't see. No, no, he doesn't see. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Let's get into our word of the day before the lovely Portia joins us. All right. Let's see what we're cooking up. And Portia is already here on time. The word of the day is fecund. Nope. I didn't even put a definition on the back of it. The word of the day is indubitable. Indubitable. I love this word. Certain, not to be denied. Indubitably, right? We always hear that. Certain, not to be denied. Indubitable, spelled INDUB. I think I spelled it wrong on the card. I definitely spelled it wrong on the card, but this is from 10th grade, so we're going to let me have a pass. It's an adjective meaning unquestionable, and it is spelled INDUBITABLE. INDUBITABLE. John said indubitable volunteer this tribute. Correct. And let's get some sentences from the people. I agree, Bullet the Bunny. Palestine will be free. Indubitably. Human rights, regardless of citizenship, should be indubitable. Yes, Brandon McGrath. Ooh, that ding is loud. All right. That's what she said. The time for revolution has indubitably arrived. Yes, Fatima. Burns races indubitably. I love this show. We love you too. Oh my God, Lynn Avery, this is so morbid. It is indubitable that J.D. Vance killed the Pope. Rest in peace to the Pope. Oh, are they having a what's the movie? Are they having their thing right now where they're choosing the new Pope? What's it called? Convection? You know what I'm talking about. It is indubitable that our Constitution is under attack. Yes, Tatiana, you ain't never lie. Ross, good morning. She said we will be indubitably ending this show so Amanda will make it to her therapy session on time. Levon says views from AmandaLand is an indubitable source for the news. I am honored. All the way from Saudi, Fahad says it is indubitable that my cat thinks she's the landlord. I'm just the guy who pays rent and gets yelled at when dinner's late. Conclave. That's the word. They're having their conclave. If y'all haven't seen the movie Conclave, it's just amazing. I mean, politics is just everywhere. It's so irritating. As humans, I feel like we're just politics because even when you go to like the Mayan, ruins, they talk about politics and you're just like, why is we on that? Why have we always been on that? It's irritating. You know what's not irritating now? Having great guests. And we are about to get into Black around the world. Let's get a little geography lesson from somebody living somewhere else. AmandaLand. Black around the world, black around the world. Black around the world, black around the world, black around the world. So we international. Passport. Hey. Yes, y'all. Fixing the hair.
I'm like, hey.
Portia, what's going on?
What's up? How are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us for Black Around the World, the Portugal Edition.
Portugal Edition.
The Portugal Edition. First, let me give people a little bit of context about Portugal, all right? So, y'all, Portugal is in Europe. Portugal was also a part of the North Atlantic slave trade. Portugal is on the coast of Spain, okay? So Portugal is on the coast of Spain. It is a coastal town. You can see Portugal right here. Where in Portugal are you at?
So I'm dead in the center. I'm right there where it says Coimbra.
Coimbra, okay.
Right
and is that on the coast, or is it like just like a little drive?
So it's just a little drive from the coast, but Coimbra itself is a district, so it goes all the way to the coast. I live in the city. Though.
You live in the city.
It's about 20 minutes from the coast, 25 minutes from the coast.
Now, why did you choose the city versus the coast? Because everybody here knows that there's no way there's a coast there and I'm not there. So please tell me.
So I have a 7-year-old, and the school that he goes to is here in Coimbra. Also, the oldest university, one of the oldest universities in all of Europe, is here in Coimbra as well. Coimbra is also the site of the Carnation Revolution, which is actually celebrated this Friday, April 25th. So that is
Put us on to the Carnation Revolution. What's the Carnation Revolution?
You know what I'm saying? The Carnation Revolution was where the Portuguese people overthrew their dictator, right? They were under authoritarian rule for decades, actually. And the people came together. It started at the university here at the University of Coimbra. And the people overthrew. It was a bloodless revolution. It was a bloodless overthrow. And they would take carnations and put them in the guns and put them on the soldiers. And they overthrew authoritarian rule. So it actually, the celebration honoring that is this Friday on the 25th. And so there's a rich history here in Coimbra of resistance, of revolution, of change, and a deep-seated sort of desire for education and knowledge. And
so basically the opposite of the United States.
Yeah. So when I left, I was like, I want people who believe in science and believe in knowledge and are striving for more of that. And so, you know, it seemed like a really good place to be. It's also very family oriented. And, you know, part of moving here was about creating my own space of resistance for the people that are back home. And how do I do that? So I'm actually sitting on the property that we're looking to close on to do just that. So
flex. That was a loud flex. A loud flex. So before we get to that, let's take it back. So what made you decide it's time to go?
I was thinking about leaving under the first Donald Trump administration. At that point, I had, you know, a brand new baby, and it really wasn't feasible for me at that point. And so we sort of endured, right? And we fought the good fight, and we protested, and we did what we could to preserve and protect our democracy. We then got, you know, Joe Biden. We were able to stop that from being a second term. And so I had high hopes that we were maybe turning a page in sort of the American sentiment. And fortunately, you know, Jan 6 happened, and then it just showed that the American people, a good majority of the American people, wanted the hatred. They wanted that rhetoric. They wanted the hatred. They did not believe in sort of truth. And when he decided to run again, the writing on the wall for me was like, this is what he's going to win. This is what America is. This is what America is asking for. And they don't necessarily realize that their desire for their whiteness to be elevated and protected isn't all that it's cracked up to be, because they don't actually care that you're white. They only care that they're rich. And,
Yes.
and people are learning that the hard way now, that their whiteness doesn't protect them because they're broke, and they're going to be more broke. So that was part of the thing that prompted me to make that move.
And what is the work that you were doing in the United States, and are you able to continue doing that work?
So I'm an attorney by training and trade. I have a law firm. We do intergenerational wealth planning work. So wills, trust, corporate formation, that sort of thing. In COVID, we went full virtual. So COVID was sort of the catalyst that allowed me and showed me that I actually could do my work from anywhere. And it could be very beneficial to our clients to make it easier for them to get access to this work, especially older clients who maybe have mobility challenges and things like that. So setting up structures that allowed us to work virtually actually ended up being beneficial. And so it was one of the things where I said, oh, okay, I can do that. So I do still do my work from here, which is great. The time zone difference is a little bit of a challenge. So I just work in the middle of the night sometimes, but it's been great to be able to have that option and opportunity. I also started helping people with the process. This is one of the things that I realized, is that there were a lot of people back home who were not prepared or even thinking about how they might make a transition. And for me, as a planner, right, that's what I do. I'm looking at all of the angles. I'm looking at what's coming, and I'm trying to make sure that my people in my community are prepared to move if they have to. Not because we don't want to fight, not because we're not going to stand up to the resistance, but you got to have an ace in your back pocket, because you never know what's coming next. And if you haven't prepared, then you're going to be stuck holding the short stick. So making sure that my people in my community are educated enough to start taking those first steps. So that's really what Portia in Portugal is all about. It talks about, nomadic life, being an immigrant in another country. I know that Americans like to call it sexy expat, but it's not. We're immigrants in another country, and what that truly means to try to belong.
That was going to be my next question. How does that? Because Black folks, we're in a unique place right now because we are in a unique place for us in that there is going to be an exodus, and it's going to be about balancing, preserving and protecting our culture while also not behaving like the colonizers who came before us. So how does that balance exist when you're going to these other places?
We have to remember our privilege. Right. And we don't generally think of ourselves as necessarily being overly privileged, particularly in the United States. But the reality is we are, especially when we come to a place like Portugal, where it is much more affordable than the United States. They have done the work of making sure that housing and food and other things are there for their people. They've done the work of making sure that healthcare isn't going to bankrupt people, that you can get quality healthcare and it's available for everyone. They've done that work. And so when we come here with our American salaries, we have a benefit of more economics. We could spend more. And I try to be very conscious of the fact that is not the reality for everyone. And by my mere existence, I am impacting all of my neighbors. And so instead of trying to live like I would in America, I'm trying to live like I should in Portugal.
Yep.
And work that way. It is a challenge because I got to check my own privilege. Right. I do. And I don't necessarily always think about it. I'm a solo parent. Right. I don't necessarily always think of myself as being privileged, but the reality is I am, and I have to be mindful of the community that I'm in. So really trying to be mindful. It's the only way I can say it, is try to be cognizant of the impact.
Give me an example of like having to check your privilege.
Yeah. Just like, so I was having this conversation with my dad earlier, and it was like, we had the babysitter booked, and then it was like, oh, well, we could just pay her for the time that we don't need her, even though we're canceling. Right. And it was like, that's not how that works, because that creates an expectation. Everybody can't do that. I don't want her then prioritizing me over her other babysitting clients because she thinks I'm going to give her
bread
more,
for not working.
It's like, she serves a lot of different families, and all of them have a need for care for their kids. And just because I have more money, I shouldn't then monopolize her time and take them away from someone else. So it's like being mindful of how having additional funds works against other people, and trying to just be straightforward. There was another conversation where it was like, we can just register for camp, and if we decide not to do it at the last minute, we could just pay for the week because it's so not that expensive. And I had to say to my dad, I was like, or to my parents in that moment, it was like, hey guys, just a reminder, but like if we take that spot, somebody else doesn't have the opportunity, and everybody needs care for their families. I had a Portuguese person say something to me once about tipping, where it was like, I'm so used to, 10, 20%, that kind of thing. And they're like, please stop doing that. That is not our culture. That's not who we are. And I don't want my staff prioritizing tourists because they think they're going to get a tip and then treating our Portuguese clients differently. It's not who we are. If you want to do that, go to America.
Damn.
They were very, very clear about it, because they're like, that's not who we are, and don't bring who you are to us. If you want to be here,
I didn't even know that was who we are. I didn't even know that was a trait.
Yeah. And other people are like, no, we pay our staff. We expect them to do great service for everyone. If you really like them, you can leave a couple of dollars maybe on the table, but please don't come in here and create these unrealistic expectations for the staff, or where they start to treat people differently based on what they think they're going to get from them. They should treat everyone well. That's their job. And so, that was a really good, okay, sorry, my bad. I thought I was doing a really nice thing.
Right.
And then it was like, oh no. All right.
Check.
All right. I'm that. Yeah, my bad. So, it's like little things like that. Also, as Americans, most of us don't speak other languages, right? Especially not proficiently. And so there's a whole lot of, you're in Portugal, you should speak Portuguese. And I'm like, I'm trying. I got my obrigadas. Come on, like I'm trying. But it's true. I can't come here and expect you to do business in my language just because it's what I know. And perhaps you know it, but it's not comfortable for you. You live here. I need to be uncomfortable in your language, not force you to be uncomfortable in mine. Ooh. And so that's another piece that has been a really good learning experience here that we try to share with others.
How has it been learning like the money situations? Because I know like it's not US. Those are the things that I feel like, and my next question is going to be about healthcare. Because when you moved, even when you move in the States, I feel like I totally forgot, like, oh, I got to get new doctors.
Yeah.
Like I still kept my dentist, y'all. I was like, I will fly to LA
I'll fly
for my
back.
dentist.
Yeah. A good dentist is hard to come by, man.
Exactly. So shout out to Dr. Tony Henderson, y'all. So talk to me about currency and money and managing that, and also you still have your business in the States, so like how does all of that get managed?
So from a money standpoint, I had been very privileged in my life, where I had done an exchange as a young person and lived in Italy for a while. During law school, I studied abroad. So I studied in southern France, and I studied in Spain. So I've had the opportunity of having to deal with euros and currency before, so it wasn't my first time, which was helpful. Mm-hmm. I play a currency game now because of the nonsense that's happening in America. The currency valuation is constantly changing. So one day I'll pay my son's tuition and it'll be almost at a 1-to-1, and then this month I paid it and it was like I lost hundreds of dollars on the transition because the US currency had dropped so much in value against the euro. So, trying to balance that is a little bit of a game. So you always are watching what the USD is against the euro, and trying to change money over when it's at a nicer parity rate than when it's down. But other than that, I mean, it's fairly easy. I opened a Portuguese bank account. It was a requirement of getting the visa. So that was something that I did early on. And I can use Apple Pay anywhere. My phone is literally my wallet, kind of like home. So, it's not hard to engage in that way. The hardest part is just getting your US dollars over to euros in a way that is where you don't lose a whole lot in the transition. That's probably the hardest part.
And you're a money master. So even hearing you say that any part of it is hard is like, ooh, child, ooh,
It takes some adjustment. It definitely takes some adjustment. But, you know.
Do you feel like you having lived in other places made this transition easier?
Yeah, I think so. I think having been used to being in different places and in different cultures and living and working in different spaces has been really helpful for this journey and this transition. But, you know, I've got friends who have moved here. There's a whole lot of Black expats here already. You know, we've got a group of about 1,000+ people that are just Black in Portugal. And then, you know, there's Black in Spain, Black in Thailand. There's all these different groups.
Okay.
And, you know, some people, this is their first journey living abroad. And they're doing fine. Life is, yeah, I mean, you know, exactly. Life is about adjustment. The only constant that we have is change. And so I welcome the challenge. I think it's so beautiful that my 7-year-old is learning Portuguese as a native speaker, right?
How's he doing with it?
You know, it's a journey, right? He's so much better than he was when we started. His
Which
school
was
offers
like
private tutoring.
A year?
Yep. So we came almost a year. We came at the end of June. So July 1 is technically would be our anniversary date.
That's my birthday, everybody. That's my birthday.
Yeah, came right before mine. So, you know, it was about 8 days before my birthday because, you know, we Cancers, we out here. But yeah, I mean, we've been here for about a year. They do.
Wait, stop. You're a Cancer?
Yeah, girl.
How's the crying in Portugal? Nice.
How's the what?
How's the crying in Portugal? Is it a good place to cry?
Oh, everywhere. It's beautiful. Are you kidding? So when I say that we are on the sanctuary property, there are a lot of places to cry, girl. You can cry wherever you want.
Because we love a good cry.
Pick a corner.
Shout out to my Cancer gang. So what made you decide? Because listen, it's one thing to be like, I'm picking up, I'm moving, like I'm going to handle that. It's a whole other thing to say, I'm picking up, I'm moving, and I'm also starting a whole other mission. Yeah. What made you say, I can do this? Because it's one thing to want to do it. How did you know you could do it?
I mean, not to sound arrogant, but I'm the kind of person that says I will always bet on me. I'm the only person that I can.
We just talked about being a high level person. We just talked about that on this show. So that is not arrogant. We're not claiming that. That's just you knowing you.
I mean, you know, I've always had to do it. I mean, life has thrown me a lot of adjustments. In college, I was going to be a PR person. I was, you know, I had an internship to move to New York. And I got rear-ended by a drunk driver. It left me in physical therapy, right, in my junior year of college. And I ended up working that summer in my cousin's civil rights law firm. And that changed the trajectory of my life. I mean, I worked on a police brutality case. And that summer, I said, I'm going to be a voice for the voiceless. I'm going to be a voice for my community. And I changed all of my classes and started taking law classes, did the LSAT, and went to law school. I worked in the volunteered. No, let me not say worked. I volunteered in the public defender's office because they did not pay me. And, you know, there was the state's attorney in Baltimore City at that time had a mission on rehabilitation. And one of her deputies called me and said, look, we need you on the other side. And I was like, I ain't going over there. That's where nah, man. Nah, I'm good. And she was like, no, because you are constantly fighting an uphill battle where you are. Over here, you are a gatekeeper of justice, and we need someone who's going to read a statement of probable cause and not take it as fact. That's going to ask the hard questions.
Because we assume when we're being raised, right, we assume prosecutors are the good guys. Like, right. That's what we're always taught, that prosecutors are the good guys. Criminal defense attorneys are defending criminals. They're defending bad guys. That's not always the case. Shout out to Luigi.
But I mean, you know, criminal defense attorneys are necessary for our society to work. People have a right to you know, zealous representation. And, you know, I mean, that's, but, you know, for me, I wasn't going to do that. But then, you know, she pushed the argument and gave me a lot of prosecutorial leeway in the beginning. But I mean, I was still a student at the time. They then lost the election. I then came in as a prosecutor under an entirely different administration that had a very different goal and objective. And so, I ended up leaving, but that was an adjustment from what I had changed, what I had gone for. And during that time, Michael Brown happened, Trayvon Martin, all of these things. And so I started protesting a lot. I ended up in Ferguson. I ended up in New York. I ended up on the front page of the New York Times, and I came back to work like, yo, the prosecutor, the state's attorney of Baltimore City is going to fire me because he's reading the New York Times. I'm prosecuting. You know what I mean? I'm protesting police brutality in New York, and I'm sitting here, as a prosecutor, and I'm like, sorry, like,
right.
I don't know.
Because just so y'all know, because even though they already know this, but prosecutors be the cops. Like prosecutors is the cops. They're hanging out together. They're hanging out.
But there's a lot of connection. You end up working on cases together. You end up, it's a small, and especially in a place like Baltimore, it's a small community. You went to law school with the defense attorneys, like you all know each other. So it was a very behind the wall kind of look at what happens in criminal justice. And it taught me that I couldn't change the system from the inside, which is what I had thought originally. I was like, I thought I could make a difference from the inside. And in being there, I realized that I couldn't, that it was too much of a machine to really, really disrupt it. It had to be disrupted from the outside. And so I started doing, alternative dispute resolution. And I went back and I did a dual LLM. And so again, having to shift and be uncomfortable and redefine myself and my mission, I've had to do that so many times throughout my life that moving was just one more thing where I was like, I know that I can do anything I put my mind to. I know that I can step up and show up. If my mission is aligned with my purpose, then I can do it and I can do anything, and the universe will provide. And it has in every way that I've shown up, the universe has just provided. So
shout out to the alchemist.
Yeah. Right.
So tell me about the sanctuary.
So, one of the things, and I know you and I have talked about this offline, it's like, I very much listen to my ancestors, right? When they speak to me, I listen, and they were like, you have to move, you have to go, you have to go.
Like literally we were talking about this because I was telling her my ancestors were like, you cannot move, you cannot go, you have to stay.
Right. It's not your time yet. It's not your time yet. Everybody's got their role to play. But mine were like, it's time to go. You got to go. And you have to do it. And so one of the things that I did that was April. By June, I had moved. We're talking about 60 days. I was out. I'd gotten the visa. I'd had my appointment, like the whole thing. And I did it all on my own. And I knew that it was going to provide. Right. Everybody was like, oh, you can't get the visa appointments. The interviews are so hard to do. There's months out. I got one 3 days before my flight. It just showed up. And they were like, oh, you can't get, appointments together with your kids. He and I got an appointment the same day, 20 minutes apart. Like, we had to fly to San Francisco. Like, that was a process. But I mean, the universe literally just provided what was needed. And then we got here, and, the apartment we had, rented wasn't ready, and the owners were talking about they didn't want to do it. And then they did. And then, we got the exact space that we wanted. And I kept hearing once I was there, right? You got to bring them along. You've got to bring the family. And so my sister and her son have gotten their visas. They move in June of this year. My parents have theirs. My aunt has hers. I'm working on my brother and my sister-in-law and their kids. And then I kept hearing, it's not enough. Your people are going to need this. And so I started looking at properties that have land, that have water, that have a space where we could come together and rest and strategize and revitalize, because rest is also revolutionary, right? I've been on the front lines. I've been out there, in the streets, in the night, in the courtroom. I've been in all of these different areas, and rest is one of the most revolutionary things that I've ever done for myself, because it allows me to hear. It eliminates the noise and has allowed me to realign with my purpose. And so I'm like, we need that. There's too much noise out here deliberately trying to confuse us. And when we're confused, we can't strategize, we can't focus, we can't align. And so the sanctuary property was, how do I create a space where people can come and be safe and engage in rest and sit peacefully and be quiet? And so here, we've got food on the land, right? There's orange groves, and
that's a mango tree behind you.
I don't know.
I think it is. I think it is.
I need a plot map. But there's like orange groves all throughout here. But it's about 33 acres of land. There's two lakes. There's streams. There's several different houses that'll be set up for rent. We're renovating now, and we'll be renovating soon. And so the whole thing is like we want to be able to have a space where people can come and just breathe. And so that's how this sanctuary property came about. It was just a matter of how do we just create a space where people can be, and this was it. And so now it's becoming a reality. We've been raising money and doing all this, and it's been this new journey for us. So it's been cool. But yeah, that's it.
I love it. And I'm really, the people in the comments are like, Portia's a superwoman. You're amazing. And it's just, but we need to see examples of this and, just multiple forms of resistance and ways in which people are aligning resistance with their self in this moment. You talk a lot about how like you've shown up in different forms of resistance at different times in your life. And I know sometimes it can feel like, dang, if I'm not doing the thing I was doing before, am I still in the movement? Am I still a part of it? But I can tell you as somebody who also used to be in the streets, it's like my in the streets days, they not that's
run like I used to. You know what I
mean? Like it's not like it was. I remember my mom being like, "You're going to another protest." Yes, I am. Yeah. So let's see. We have some questions from the people. Adrian asked, Ms. Wood, how are Black folks and Black children treated in Portugal, or at least in where you are, Coimbra? And do you have to bring your American salary there?
So this is the thing that I didn't know because I didn't do much research. You move in 60 days. It's hard to have done much research. But, Portugal did this thing where after the Carnation Revolution, they also decolonized from Africa. So a lot of people, that all happened around the same time in the 70s, in 1974. But one of the things that they did do was they made access points. So there's a lot of people from Mozambique and from all of these former African colonies of Portugal that live here, that got access to the EU and the right to work and the right to live through Portugal's program. And so also Portugal used to be ruled by the Moors. And so people in Portugal look every color. And what I realize is that people don't know that I'm not Portuguese until I start speaking. They go, oh.
The disappointment. Dang.
Yeah, there's like this whole level of, they're like, oh, you're one of those. Okay. But they don't know. And they see my son and they see me and my son, and he's very fair skinned. And so people don't really know what he is either. And it's like you just walk around and everybody looks at you like you belong. And that's something that I didn't have in the US, right? Someone's always looking at you like, why are you here? Here in Portugal, the first thing I noticed in the first few days was that the weight that I carried walking around in the States was gone. And it was subtle. It wasn't like I like consciously was like, oh, I'm safe. I just felt safe. I just realized I wasn't checking for, is someone going to come up behind me and bop me over the head? Or is someone going to drag me behind a dumpster and take advantage of me? Like none of those things were worries anymore. Someone looking at me like I wasn't supposed to be here, or the cop's going to do something. That was, you just belonged. You just got to exist.
Yeah.
And like that in and of itself was revolutionary as an experience, to be like, in my personhood, I just get to be. And that is not something that I had ever experienced in the US. So how are we treated? We're treated very well. Do you have to bring your American salary? No, but the minimum wage in Portugal is about 890 euros a month, which is just about $1,000 a month. And so it is not high if you're coming here looking for a job. You're not going to be paid a whole lot of money, especially if you don't speak the language.
Right.
So having some other kind of income, whether that be online income or something else, is going to be helpful. But that being said, with the minimum wage being at that price point, you can get an apartment by yourself, or buy a house by yourself, because their mortgage rates are also very low. Interest rates are 2.5% right now, and if it's your own home, you only have to put 10% down, and you don't have to be a citizen to get a mortgage. And so you don't even have to be a resident to get a mortgage. Like, so there are a lot of ways to get access to ownership of property. If you're under 35, they just did a whole new program to try to bring young people into the country. And so they deferred taxes, they're giving them down payment support. And again, you don't have to be a resident or a citizen. You do have to then live here if you take that program, but they're going to help you buy a house. And so there's all of these benefits to being here where they're really supporting the people.
Y'all, this is what socialism is, if you were just pointing this out.
Yeah, in case you were wondering. So we're treated really well in general, right? There's always outliers. There's always going to be somebody who's doing something, or somebody who gets pissed off about something. But for the most part, we're treated really well. If you look around at the mall or on TV or in any advertisement, it is always a diversity of color. And it is not like, oh, they randomly plopped in a Black woman here. Or,
right.
It's like there's a Black woman and a Portuguese man and their mixed race child. And like that is just everywhere because it's representative of the culture. And so it's not like it's forced or we're trying to diversify. It just is. So there's that difference as well. So
love it. Fahad, all the way from Saudi Arabia, asks, Miss Wood, could you maybe give more insight on the golden visa process for Portugal?
Yeah, Fahad, the golden visa process here has changed a little bit. You used to be able to buy real estate and that would be able to get you into the golden visa. That changed. You still can get a golden visa through either investment. You can invest in a qualified fund. You do have to leave the funds in there for about 5 years, but you get a dividend return on that. And that gives you access to the golden visa. The golden visa has a minimum requirement in country of 7 days. So every year you have to spend 7 days in Portugal. Oh, terrible. But at the end of the 5 years, you can apply for citizenship. So it gives you the right to live and work in the EU, all of the EU.
Wow.
And then you can get citizenship, which is essentially a second passport. So the golden visa for Portugal is still really good, but you can't use it. You can't buy real estate to get it. You can start a business. You can do some other things. Greece has a golden visa process that still does real estate. In fact, I think in the smaller islands like Crete, you only have to spend 250,000 euros and you can get a golden visa. And I think they have no time in country requirement, if I'm correct. So you don't even have to go there. And you can rent it out. You can use it as an Airbnb or whatever else and still get the golden visa. A lot of these programs are changing, especially in light of the administration's immigration policies and their tariffs. With the United States, a lot of these other countries in the EU are changing the way that they are looking at and providing access to their countries, specifically for those from America. So if it's something you're interested in, or at least want the opportunity to be able to do in the future, I would say start looking into it now to make sure that you have, at least your ducks in a row or an idea of what the process might look like for you.
There you go, Fahad. All right. Jade Boyd asks, Miss Woods, what has been or continues to be the biggest adjustment for your family since you've been in Portugal? So they at home, you.
So the biggest adjustment, I'd say, I have a very tight-knit family. So my family being back home has been difficult, particularly for my son. And so that's hard, right? It's hard to not be known. And I actually just wrote an article about this on my Substack, the downsides to moving abroad. And loneliness can be one of them. As you are building and rebuilding a community, being by yourself in a place where nobody knows you, where you don't speak the language, where you've got to try to figure out new cultural forays and norms. And sometimes you stumble and you are that tacky American, right? Doing, something.
Yeah.
And really having to humble yourself enough to learn. So that's been the biggest adjustment, is trying to truly understand the cultural norms of where I am. Having to say yes, even when I'm tired, to events to help foster those relationships, and being intentional about it. So, I became an admin for the Blacks in Portugal group and helped to put together events for that. We created a whole nother group for our area just to bring expats and locals together so that, we are forging a bond, not just of people who are foreigners, but people who are here in the community, so that we can build those bridges. Because what's coming, we're going to need all of us. Community is going to be our savior. It's not going to be fighting our neighbors. It's going to be building the bigger table that's going to, in my humble opinion, going to be what forges the path forward, right? So, saying yes even when I don't want to, that's kind of the hardest part.
Well, that's why I would say community is inconvenient. And as two Cancers, we be in the house.
Mm-hmm.
We be in the house. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hence the sanctuary property. Let me bring
exactly. Bring y'all to me. All right, this is our last question from Jonathan Gonzalez. Ms. Wood, do you miss the States?
No.
That's why I say the second part, because I already know the answer.
So I miss my family, Jonathan, and that is I've been able to. They've come out here, and I've been back a few times because I didn't sell my house. I kept my stuff in the United States, and so I do come back and have been back. I will not be coming back probably for another 4 years until this.
I don't blame you.
Is out. No, but I mean, just I don't miss the feeling. I don't miss the fear that's there. I don't miss the fact that in my son's kindergarten in Pasadena, they went on lockdown 3 times. Who, as a parent, wants to get a text message that your child's school is on lockdown and don't come? Right? Like, I don't miss any of that. I don't have any of those concerns or worries here. Mass shootings are not a thing. The idea that people just go around and shoot up schools, like, that doesn't exist here. When I say that to people, they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, what is wrong with Americans that they would kill their own kids? And I'm like,
right.
I can't tell you. There's a sign in the park here near us, and it's on the wall. It's graffiti on the wall. It's protest. And in Portuguese, it says 23 women were assaulted here. 23 women were assaulted here in like 2024, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I was, we were telling the Uber driver, we're like, oh man, wow, 23 women in this park. And he goes, no, in the country. And we are out. Like, he's like, we're outraged. Like, we are protesting. Who dares to put their hands on a woman and like all this? Listen, my sister and I were sitting in that Uber. We were like, tell us more. What do you mean? For the year? Wait a minute, for the year? I was like, that might be a 10-minute stint in Los Angeles for the year? Okay, tell me more. I've moved to the right place, right? I've moved to the right place where you're like, absolutely not. We as a community, we do not stand for this. And we want everyone to know that 23 women being assaulted in the country is unacceptable, right? I want to live in that place where everybody collectively agrees we don't stand for that. We can't even convince people that women should be able to not have their right to vote taken away.
So we have a Portuguese person in the comments. And I think, Andrea, I just want you to know, it's so bad here in the United States that what I'm getting from the combination of your comments and of Portia's is that essentially the bar is so high in Portugal that what may seem to you, Andrea, as terrible is just par for the course in the United States.
Andrea, it is like a random 2 hours on a Tuesday is like what, and yes, don't get me wrong. Like I said, there is police brutality that happens. There is definitely clashes with immigrant communities. There are definitely things. It is not a haven or a utopia by any stretch of anyone's imagination. But when we make the comparison to what we've come from, the fact that I can take a deep breath and send my kid to school, and in his school, they make fresh farm to table food, that the red dye number 5 is outlawed in the country. Like, you can't sell it here.
Like, right? You can't get hot tamales, guys.
Right. I mean, like, the food, the Honey Nut Cheerios that I buy my son here taste like honey. They don't taste like chemicals. Like, they taste like honey. Half of the ingredients that are on the American Cheerios don't exist. Half of the ingredients from the bread that we use for preserving bread in the United States doesn't exist. Does your food go bad quicker? Yes. You just don't buy as much.
Right.
You buy what you need for the time that you have. You eat it in that time period. So there's not all this over consumerism, because it's not going to last. but it's also fresh and you don't have to worry about it. So it's like, I don't have to worry that everything that my child is eating is going to kill him, right? Or stunt his growth, or give him childhood obesity and cancer, which are all things that are problematic in our society. I don't have to worry that he's going to get shot in the park playing with a toy gun. Like, I don't have to worry about these things. Are there other things to worry about? Sure, there's always going to be something to worry about. But taking that off the plate makes it a lot easier to focus on the other things. And for me, that added years to my life. The less stress, just removing some of that stress added years back to my own life. So, you know, for me, that was, and Andrea, you're right, there's problems.
but as Rolando says here, America's bars in hell.
Yeah. I mean, I will take these problems all day and then work to try to figure out how to help solve them if I can. But yeah, no. I'm very happy to be gone, and no, I do not miss the United States. I miss my family. I miss my community. I miss my people.
Right.
I don't miss the policies or politics or the way in which the United States is being carried right now, or really in the past. There's not a time that I can point to where I was this free or this happy in my entire life. And I recognize that I also grew up privileged, right? I grew up privileged. And I recognize that I have never been this free, this carefree, and able to just exist and be in my own space, in my own personhood, ever. And so, you know, there's not a time that I would point back to. I miss my people, but that's it.
I love this for you, though. I love this for everybody who is really also just realizing that misery doesn't have to be the only option. And I think what America really peddles is that that's really what it is. Like, it's considered patriotic to be in struggle that is being put upon you. Right? That's being put upon you. Like, struggle to undermine these fascists and these oligarchs, etc. Okay, we all understand that. But like, they tell you, even in their conversations around tariffs, it's like, oh, you're going to struggle for a little bit, but it's fine. That's what you're doing for the American dream. So wait, where can people
though? They're not struggling though.
They're not struggling, ma'am. They don't even know how to spell it. Also, because they can't read.
It's on the Signal chat. Don't worry. It's on the Signal.
Where can people check out more Portia? Because I know you have the Substack you mentioned. So what is your Substack called?
The Wandering Woods is our Substack. We've got a website, PortiaandPortugal.com. I started a TikTok and an Instagram, Portia and Portugal, just sort of documenting our journey and, answering questions and just showcasing what life is like. On the website, people can get a free guide that I put together on how to move abroad, how to do it yourself. Because, if you want the option, you got to start doing some of this now. Many of the departments that you would need to get your paperwork have been gutted. And so if you are interested in the process, there are certain things that you should do right now. Another thing is just
meaning they've been gutted in the United States.
Correct. So like the FBI, you need a fingerprint report from the FBI to be able to go to your appointment and your visa and showcase that you don't have a criminal record in the United States. The FBI has been gutted in a bit, right? You need the Department of Justice to apostille that fingerprint report. Department of Justice has been reshuffled and other things. And so there are these organizations, right? These departments that you will need to be able to do this process. And they are getting inundated and backlogged, and they're in disarray. So if it's even a thought, there's certain things that you should be doing right now. Another thing that I would say, and this is a little off topic, kind of on topic, little off topic, but everyone should be getting their birth certificates apostilled. So your birth certificate, a copy of your driving record. If you've been divorced, your divorce decree. If you have custody of your kids, your custody paperwork. One of the things that I found is I had a certified copy from the court of my custody agreement with my son, and the government here wouldn't accept it. It needed to be apostilled to be accepted under the Geneva Convention. And so even though it was certified by the courts in the United States, the government here didn't accept it. And so you need to make sure that you have documents apostilled.
Can you explain what apostille is? I've never heard that word in my life.
Yeah. So apostilled is essentially just, it's like a notary, but it's a stronger form of certification of the documents, and it is accepted under the Geneva Convention. So for like your FBI report, you get it apostilled at the DOJ. For your birth certificate, you can get it apostilled at in your state. So your registrar's office, something like that.
So I can go to, so if I am born in California, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I would have to get my birth certificate in California and also get it apostilled in California.
Yeah, you'd probably have to get it apostilled in California. So I was born in Alameda County, right? I'm a Bay Area girl at heart. And so, I had to get my birth certificate from Alameda County, and then I actually got apostilled in LA. So, you don't have to do it in the same county, but
okay,
just getting it certified.
And then do I have to physically go to get it apostilled, or can it be done in the same, like, okay, if I get the birth certificate, what's the process to get the apostille?
Then you have to take it over there to get it apostilled. So you can either mail it in or you can physically take it. Somebody will also do it for you if you want to pay them. But
that's the LA way, though. You just throw money. That's the LA way.
Throw money at it. But for those of you who don't want to do that, you do not have to. You can take it in and just pay the fee for the apostille.
And what are the documents, again, that you suggest that people get apostilled?
So no matter what, whether you're planning to move out of the country or not, as things are changing around citizenship and other things, the fact that birthright citizenship is coming up to the Supreme Court, I think on the 15th of May, all of us should just have these records of our birth, of our citizenship, and of our rights here in the United States. So that's your birth certificate, maybe even your parents' birth certificates, especially if they've passed away, maybe their death certificates. Divorce decrees. If you've been divorced, you want an apostille copy of that shows that that person is no longer a part of your situation. If you have custody, you want to get that apostille to show and prove if you are leaving for another country and you're trying to take your kid, they may not accept your court documents. And so you need to have something apostilled that says, hey, under the Hague Convention, you have to accept this to show that I have a legal right to this child. Those kinds of things. Your driving record was one that I didn't even realize, but one of the attorneys here recommended it. They said, having something that certifies what your record is can be helpful if trying to get a license someplace else, especially if any of those systems go down or start getting more complicated in the U.S. Having a certified record that another country would recognize would be important.
So go ahead.
I was also going to say, and then, the best thing that anybody can do is make sure that you're sharing them with somebody else, somebody who is either outside of the country, ideally, right, as a backup plan. Because if somebody needed to advocate on your behalf, you want to make sure that they have documents that prove who you are. Oh, I love that.
Yes, shout to Jazz LP said, if any of y'all live in Texas and want to get an apostille, she will notarize it for them for free.
Love that.
Someone asked, is it a free process?
Well, Jazz said it is for her, but no, it's not a free process. It does cost money. Depending on your county, getting a copy of your birth certificate is generally you have to pay a fee for that. California, I think it was like $27 in Alameda County. And then the apostille costs whatever it costs in the office that you're in, and that will vary by jurisdiction.
I'm going to ask a dumb question.
Yeah.
Where do you get your birth certificate from?
The county where you were born.
But like where in the county?
So the vital records, right? So if you're in California, you just go to vital records. You can go online, go to vital records.
See, I ain't never heard of that before. Vital records. I'm glad I asked the dumb question, y'all. Okay. Yep. Vital records.
Yep. So vital records will do it for you. And you can get birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates, that kind of thing.
This is why I have these kind of people around, y'all. This is why. Well, thank you so much, Portia. I can definitely tell you that people are leaving here informed, inspired, and really about getting a passport. When I was told in 2017 by the internets that I was bougie for saying if you're spending money on Nikes and Nike suits and Jordans, and you don't have a passport, you're losing. I want a formal apology. Because I meant that, and it was not meant for simply Black folks. It was meant in general for Americans who think consumerism is what is going to save them, and it is not. So thank you so much, Portia. Y'all know what to do. Go check out Portia's Substack as well as PortiaInPortugal.com and consider Portugal. Obrigado.
Obrigada.
Oh, it's obrigada. They see, y'all. I was speaking Japanese. Obrigada. Thank you, sis. Y'all, look at that. Don't we love Black around the world? We love Black around the world. Black around the world. Black around the world. Black around world. Black around the world. So Black around the world. It's international. Hey. Ross said, tell teens passports, not purses. You can have that. Thank you, Ross. Passports, not purses. She gave that to us. All right. Let's get into some 60-second headlines, y'all. Because you know I'm moving. I gotta go to therapy. AmandaLand. 60-second headline. Gonna run down some news right quick.
Run it down, mama. Put us on.
All right, let's get into it. So this was a weekend of protest. We didn't get to talk about it yesterday because we were talking about the movie Sinners, which in its own right is a version of protest. And we saw the 51 protests, and basically it was 50 protests in 50 states. And I got to tell you, I really appreciated the difference in these protests versus what we saw with the April 5th protests, right? Now we know with the April 5th protests, it started to look real fishy, right? The 5501 protests definitely had an entirely different vibe to it, and it was obvious. Now, the values that they list on the 5501 website says between 5501 states and 5501 movement. They have a commitment to inclusivity. They have a commitment to nonviolence. They have a commitment to conflict resolution. And ultimately, it's really all about let's come together, and we absolutely need to be about something outside of politics. And that is why the April 5th protests were 1000% fraud, in my opinion. They were fraud. Okay. They were absolutely fraud. And I wanted to show you all some footage of the 5501 protests, because I think it's also just important to remind us that folks are out here. Folks are out here. Folks are in the streets. Folks are standing up. And I know that, okay, don't get me wrong. Protesting is not enough. However, what I am seeing is a continued growth in the amount of people protesting, who is protesting, and the frequency of the protesting. What I'm also noticing is that, and what we also need to remember is that things have to happen in tandem. Okay. So like at the same time that we're seeing the protesting, judges are actually starting to be like, hey. And not just like, oh, we're going to do a ruling, but like, we're going to stay on it. Not just, oh, we're going to do the thing and keep it moving. We're going to do the thing, and then we're going to talk about it again and again and again. And I know people were asking, well, what does it mean when judges are pushing back? Like, what does that actually look like? And what it looks like is, at the present, them holding people in contempt who are carrying out the illegal requests of the Donald Trump administration. So Donald Trump may have been given immunity by his Supreme Court cronies, but the people carrying out his illegalities are not, which is why this whole, oh, I'm just doing my job. That's not it. Because if the job you've been told to do is illegal, baby, you on the hook. And that's always been what it is. That's always been what it is. So shout out to these folks in the streets. Now, I'm going to have to verbally, I'm I'm going to have to not translate, but I'm going to have to narrate what is being said in this first part of the video because people be wanting to add copyright music to every dang video and it can't be shared. Okay. But they said, but the dream of America. So let me just give context first. This is a speech that was being given at the 5501 protests. I want you to take a note and listen to the difference. Okay. I want you to take a note and listen to the difference of the verbalizing that's happening here. Yes, Deontay Kyle is a podcast who said protest or parade. I was trying to get Deontay Kyle on here, but he said he's never available on Wednesdays. So shucks. All right. But the dream of America is that America is ours to shape, ours to emancipate. And the truth of the matter is that we cannot be here just to tell the agents of tyranny to take their hands off America. Now, I like that because that is a direct shade at this hands-off protest of April 5th. We must be here to rise, to reach out and to put our own hands on our own country. You see the unique difference in this messaging because this is messaging that empowers the people to resist versus asks the people who are causing harm to stop. It's the difference between making demands that have action behind it versus making demands that request action. And I love it. These are the people marching in New York City. We must dedicate ourselves, even as they try. We must dedicate ourselves, even as they prepare to make war. We must dedicate ourselves. And then it got cut off. Even as they label us radicals. I loved this language because the fact is they're using language like radical leftists and they're applying that to centrists who are actually going along with the BS. They're saying it's radical to want the things that we are providing other countries with. For the record, Israel gets free healthcare. Israel gets free education, and our taxpayer dollars are on the form. It's very clear. We're paying for war. And they're saying that we're radical for not wanting to go along with that. We must find the bravery to challenge this. Give me liberty or give me, and then it got cut off, so I don't know what she said. But look at these people out here. We know our dream. New York. Everett, Washington. Denver, Colorado. Houston, Texas. Portland, Maine. St. Paul, Minnesota. Y'all, even India said, we don't want you, JD Vance. Go back, JD Vance. Go back, go back. Go back, JD Vance. Go back, go back. Do you understand? Okay, Mesotia, thank you for coming through in the clutch. The message says change isn't an option. Change is what we're demanding. Change isn't an option. Change is what we're demanding. Mm-hmm. And someone asked, did she say, give me liberty or give me death? And I'm going to tell you right now what she said. All right, hold on. The fact that the Indian folks was like, I can't tell because it got cut off. So I thought it was just cut off in my video. But this is impactful and I'm proud of it. And it gives me even a sliver of hope. Captain Jess, he was coming to India and they said, go back. So that's where they want him to go. Away. Go away. Go away, please. We don't want you. We don't want you. So Sandy says, I don't understand how these were different from April 5th when they were organized by the same group. They weren't organized by the same group. April 5th wasn't organized by this organization, not to my knowledge. April 5th was organized by Democrats. And April 5th was called the Hands Off protests. So to my understanding, these were not the same. And the representation at these protests is very, very different. The speakers are wearing keffiyeh. The speakers are talking about the work that needs to be done. And yes, there were protests that happened on April 5th that were supported by the 5501 group, but that was not a part of the April 5th protests that were called the Hands Off protests. So there were simultaneous things happening at the same time, but the April 5th Hands Off protests are the ones that I'm referring to, that were organized by Democrats, that had people like Nancy Pelosi and her insider trading butt standing up talking about stuff. And they had like food trucks, and they had just a lot of nonsense that was not what it was about. So they would also be present at some of those hands-off protests to provide literature, to also provide, to also bring people there to push what they're talking about, which is exactly what I just spoke about in those videos. PSL has also been running a lot of immigration protests, and we know PSL is the party for, I always get it wrong, because when you Google PSL, it's the Pakistan Super League, and it's like that's not what I'm looking for. But it's the Party for Socialism and Liberation. It's the Party for Socialism and Liberation. So that is the difference. Okay. Now May Day is coming up. May Day, as we know, is about unions and labor. And May Day, there is also going to be some activations that are happening. May Day protests are going down as a national day of action against Donald Trump. And you can look at, there's so many places that are doing a national day of action around May Day, but you can also go to 5501.org to look into that. So big ups to everybody who is out here protesting, and also to those who are at home protesting and doing the work in other ways. Okay? And doing the work in other ways. Now, when we're talking about protesting, one of the things that we are really need to always uplift is student protests, and also the way, and we have to uplift and amplify the way student protests are being suppressed. We must always remember and contextualize that it has always been everywhere students that end up leading protests. This is why the attack on colleges, the attack on education is so deep. Do you remember there was like a whole trend for like the past few years around like, oh, don't go to college. College is a waste of energy. You don't learn anything in college. College is a waste of money. And it was so frustrating to me because they were literally trying to make college elitism. They were trying to make college privilege. And the only reason college is elitism and privilege here in the United States is because it's not free. In other nations, college is free. Going to higher education is free. Getting scholarships is not like some odd thing. So not only here, but here, there is an absolute effort to try and make university higher education something for the elite and make that a bad thing, when ultimately that should be the standard. Okay? That should be the standard. Having access to that space should be the standard. Now, NCCU, North Carolina Central University, is an HBCU. And I was horrified to see that this is how students were being treated on that campus who were protesting the living conditions, which we also saw a few years back at Howard. Look at this. Look at this. Look at how these officers are taking this girl down. And you know, that's not even that's a RBG flag. Look at these cops. ACAB for life. Look at these black cops on this HBCU campus and how they are hemming this young lady up. Absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Look at him running after her. Look at this. This is deplorable. Absolutely deplorable. And this is what I mean by skin folk, not kinfolk, has taken on a whole other level. This is what I mean when I say that the movie Sinners is about assimilation. And this lie that if we assimilate, that everything is going to be peace and love. No. I was so just appalled. And the chancellor, Carrie G. Dixon, she's responded to the folks who rallied on campus with 3 words. We hear you. We hear you. She did a message to students and staff on Thursday morning that she and other NCCU students were off campus when the police detained 5 people. But then, and this is what they try and do, they try to undermine protests. And we're seeing it on college campuses because we're seeing that these college campuses are trying to act as if they are prisons. They are trying to disseminate the same efforts of cop cities. And I want you to know that they are planning on building cop cities on campuses. Let me be clear. Okay? 5 people were detained, and the school said that the rally they tried to come out with this. Oh, the rally was sponsored by a significant number of people who are not NCCU students or otherwise affiliated with the university. Then they came back the next day to say, oh, our bad. After the names of those were released. They then released another statement saying, of the 5 individuals detained, the primary organizer is not affiliated with the university, while the remaining 4 are affiliated with NCCU. Well, let me just explain to y'all that it don't even matter for the record, because NCCU is a public university. And Durham-based attorney Daniel Meyer said he does not find it constitutional for a public university to restrict who can come onto campus and protest, stating protest groups can come to a public place and protest. As North Carolina Central University is part of the UNC system, it has a policy on free speech and free expression, which states university members can assemble as long as it doesn't substantially disrupt the functioning of the school. He added, if the issue is they weren't invited, that's a problem. If the issue is they became disruptive, became damaging, or broke the law, I think that's certainly a different question. But that, y'all, is not what the university was claiming. He said the First Amendment is broad. I'd be hard-pressed to say that an institution could come up with their own policy that said students and faculty cannot invite people on campus. By the way, precedent from other schools in the system shows that outside groups can conduct protests on campus. Several years ago, there were protests around a Confederate statue at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. This, as you're looking around at the vast array of nonsense, and you're trying to figure out, where do I put my energy? Where do I put my focus? Where do I put my protest, my resistance? Consider supporting students at the schools. Consider the resistance projects happening at colleges and universities as where you may want to put your passion behind, because it is vitally important that we protect it. It is vitally important that we protect it. And they're now attempting to further shift this mindset around colleges by attempting to, well, not attempting, they are actually doing this now, by now implementing the garnishing of wages for student loans that are in default. This has many repercussions, and one of them is to attempt to dissuade people from going to seek higher education. Trust and believe. They announced on Monday that the Trump administration will start garnishing wages and processing the collecting on defaulted federal loans on May 5th. The Treasury Offset Program, which collects debts by intercepting payments such as tax refunds and Social Security benefits, will administer the collections. So your government is now serving as a collection agency for the loans that you took out from your government to go to school, to get degrees, skill sets, and capabilities that ultimately help support your government. No federal student loan has been referred to collections since March 2020, when the Education Department paused federal student loan payments and collections during the COVID-19 pandemic. At the end of 2024, 4 out of 10 borrowers were current on their student loans. That means that over half, 5.6 million borrowers, are in default. 35% of borrowers are 60 days delinquent. About 4 million borrowers are 91 to 180 days delinquent. Who is caring about paying a student loan when you can't pay rent or you can't afford eggs? Defaulted borrowers can lose eligibility to receive additional student aid and experience legal consequences. Now, on the U.S. Department of Education site, it says that they're doing this because resuming collections protects taxpayers from shouldering the cost of federal student loans that borrowers willingly undertook to finance their post-secondary education. So let's do a quick little critical thinking exercise. I'm just going to do a little quick one, but I really like the critical thinking exercise intro, so I'm going to play it. AmandaLand. Let's go. All right. So this language, I'm actually going to, I should have done this while I was, this language is the language that is on the U.S. Department of Education website. And I want you to look at this language and tell me what it is saying without saying, because it is being able to read that is imperative. Because somebody who's not thinking that way might look at this and simply just be like, oh, they're trying to protect us. So let's look at this again. Resuming collections protects taxpayers from shouldering the cost of federal student loans that borrowers willingly undertook to finance their post-secondary education. So you guys have heard the word, when people be like, well, the operative word being. So the operative word ends up meaning like that's the word that's pushing the message forward. So we've got a couple operative words here. Can anyone point out for me some operative words in this phrasing and what they are actually doing? So Sarah, there we go. Victim blaming. Jack says, it says loanees asked for it. And yes, so the word willingly, that word right there is big. Willingly. They asked for it. They wanted this. They should have known. They consciously put themselves in this position. Willingly. All right. Diana, exactly. That's what I heard when I saw it. Okay, but what were they wearing? Which we know is so often the response when women have been sexually assaulted. KB, thank you for these words. Protects taxpayer. This word protects. You're right, Guyana. It is an interesting word because are the taxpayers asking for that? It protects taxpayers as if these people are not also paying taxes. The people who they are harming are also paying taxes, which is also part of the reason why they can't afford this. They're literally paying taxes, and they're saying that they will not allow them to receive their tax refund in order for it to go to the goddamn Department of Education, which is, to the federal loans. By the way, taxpayers are not even getting to choose how our money is spent. I don't want my money spent. I don't want my taxpayer money spent on going to educate Israelis if we're not going to also go to educating Americans. I don't want my tax money spent on going to genocide if we're not going to also bail out Americans. No. And who are the taxpayers they're protecting? That's right, Jessica Ramsey. It's protecting the bourgeoisie. The other word that you all are pointing out is the word shouldering. Shouldering. Yes, Adrian, aka we got our own bootstraps. You pull up your own. The resuming collections protects taxpayers from shouldering. This suggests that taxpayers and borrowers, there we go, Nia. It divides taxpayers against borrowers as if taxpayers aren't already shouldering the education for Israel, as well as the fact that taxpayers are involved in this whole scenario. Taxpayers are United States citizens. For the record, immigrants are taxpayers as well, whether they are undocumented or not. And it is very well documented that immigrants, it contribute so much to taxes that it is a fall off with them not being here. That's a whole other conversation that we're going to have possibly tomorrow. I want to remind you guys that this same United States government bailed out the auto industry. It bailed out Silicon Valley. It bailed out the banks. It bailed out the mortgage industry. This is unnecessary. And what this also purports is that this is somehow helping each other. That the government is protecting you from these elite people who want to go to college taking your money that you're in the fields making. That's what it's trying to suggest. That these people who are going to college are taking money from you regular Americans. By the way, these people who are in these positions are legacy collegiate people. And yes, even though all of those have been bailed out, Sarah points out we only got $1,400 of our own taxpayer money when we were in a crisis. Meanwhile, in other countries like Burkina Faso, you have their leader, Ibrahim Traore, saying, you know what, guys? Let's just make all school fees exempt. How about that? Education is now 100% free in Burkina Faso from primary to university. Grenada, are you listening? Grenada, are you listening? The Caribbean, are you listening? This needs to be instated in the Caribbean, for the record. This needs to be reinstated. This needs to be instated in the Caribbean. So as we are watching the lies be told, I just always want us to practice being able to see when the lies are being told. It's imperative that we are able to do that, because we oftentimes fall prey to the lies because we're just simply not taught how to read them. You know, we're just simply not taught how to read them. I will admit that when I first read that from the Department of Education, my indoctrination was like, oh, and then that switch flipped, because I've trained that switch to flip. And that switch flipped and said, now hold on now, Amanda, remember who the Department of Education is. And remember what they're going to try and do for y'all and what they've been doing to y'all. Yes, Ms. Latia, the amount of punitive acts on poverty in America is diabolical. Now, Janice says, I'm late, but if you owe student loans, they take the person's taxes for the bill, so they are not doing anything new. They are doing something new when they are saying that they're going to garnish wages. That is new. That is new. Them taking your tax return and Social Security results and Social Security funds is not, but garnishing wages and saying that they're going to start doing it again is new. This has stopped. That's the whole point. They were doing this before, but they are reinstating this now as if something has changed for the positive that has given people the capabilities to do this. COVID was in 2020. No one has recovered from COVID, myself included. No one has recovered from COVID. Before COVID, I had a flourishing touring career. It never recovered. All of these folks going out on the road, Beyonce and Taylor Swift, are anomalies. Okay? And I don't believe that we will never recover, but we will never recover unless the mind state changes. Okay? We will never recover unless the mind state changes. So it's imperative that we understand that reality. We are in such a instant gratification mind state that a lot of us really forget that things do not just simply come back to normal. Things do not just simply just reset. And there's a very real long-term repercussion for things that can happen in an instant. These tariffs that were put in place, they have reverberated in shockwaves that folks can't even imagine. For real. They have reverberated in ways that folks can't even imagine. Namely, not just in financial ways, which, by the way, this morning, I saw a financial analyst saying, no, there isn't a 50% chance of us going to, he was like, no, there isn't a 50% chance of us going into a recession. We are in a recession. He was like, I don't know what y'all talking about. And he was like, the next thing to go is employment. And we already know that that's already a next thing to go. People are getting laid off in droves. In droves. Aside from the immediate money, the immediate money repercussion, what a lot of people are failing to regard is that the United States is not a trusted business partner. Listen to what Japan's leader had to say.
The United States is saying is completely unreasonable. Their logic is all over the place, and there's no consistency at all. However, when Japan negotiates with what they are saying, to be frank, it's akin to being extorted by a delinquent. If Japan gives in, thinking it's a negotiation or a deal, and compromises on its position, it sets a bad precedent as a customary practice. If you give money to someone extorting you, they'll just come back to extort you again. In the first place, even their equations are completely nonsensical. I wasn't good at math either, but if that equation appeared in a math test, it would definitely score 0. That's why, even though Minister Akazawa is serious and capable, there's a concern about whether it's okay for a serious person to handle this. Since they're not a straightforward opponent, they won't listen to straightforward reasoning. Even though all options were mentioned, you must never show compassion to an opponent who isn't straightforward. If you ease up on them, it will set a bad example. In any case, I hope we absolutely do not give in to America's extortion. This may sound harsh, but it really is extortion. If we comply with this, it will truly set a bad example. Truly. Minister Iwata, I know you might not have much time, but I highly recommend watching the documentary about Roy Cohn, the lawyer who mentored him, and the documentary about Mr. Trump. By watching those, I hope you can gain some insight into what kind of person Mr. Trump is.
Listen, they're not talking about tariffs. They're talking about character. You know, other cultures, they have things like honor, character, and even if they may fall from that in certain instances, that's still like a part of their actual culture. Like, it's not something that they take lightly. So when we're looking at the United States, they're looking at us like, yeah, we not really like about y'all. And if you want to see this documentary, it's Where's My Roy Cohn? It's called Where's My Roy Cohn? So go check that out. Go check out the documentary.
You
So
watch
I'm just
it,
so
get the sense of, oh, this is the kind of person he is.
understand your enemy. Understand their mind. Understand how they think. Understand that. Okay? So it is also, as Carol points out, very taboo for Japanese culture to call you out. Like, they really be like, let's go have some tea and talk about this. So I say all of this to say that the United States, as you may know it, is not some bastion of morality or of exceptionalism in the way that I think a lot of people think we are. As Danielle Still Learning says, we are not trusted at all. The only way trust can even begin to start the restoration process at this point is to remove this administration. Other countries are saying, I don't F with you. And so that's the other thing that I want to point out about the 5501 protests. They were calling for impeachment. They weren't in there talking about hands off our Social Security. No, they were in there saying, get out. GTFOH. GTFOH. And that's a very different call to action than what's coming from the Democrats. You know, I just got a text. Cory Booker says it's time to stop Trump. Add your name to demand Trump's impeachment now. And then it says the Senate Fight Fund. So if I sign this, they're going to now start sending me texts saying, in order for us to really fight this thing that you signed, we need your money. In order for us to do actually like get behind this petition, we need your money. That's what they're going to do. Those are your 60-second headlines. And it is time for us to get into how Black we feel today.
How Black do you feel today? Hey.
Greetings, AmandaLanders. I'm back, y'all. It is your ancestor, Harriet Tubman. And no, Adrian, I am not happy. Now, it ain't no secret that this orange elder that y'all done got in that White House got a problem with black folks. Well, but now he done too much. He done too much because him and his cronies went and removed an image of me, Harriet Tubman, and a quote of mine from a national parks webpage about the Underground Railroad. I don't know what gave them the right to do this, but as you can see, they have made some adjustments that I don't quite stand for. First of all, don't be touching anything I say and removing anything I've done. But more importantly, they've replaced it with these commemorative stamps talking about black and white cooperation. Let me be clear. Before them folks came in and switched up this page, it didn't talk about cooperation. It talked about co-conspiracy. That's right. Co-conspiracy. You see, when enslaved folks like myself were making the efforts for our own freedom, putting forth the work amidst the danger, the white folks working with us was working against the Fugitive Slave Act. It was white folks breaking the law, standing on business, and seeing beyond the lie that this nation continued to tell them that they were superior. You know, they done took all of that off this page on them internets and replaced it with some business about American ideals of liberty and freedom. It don't even specifically mention slavery. So what y'all think we was cooperating doing on these stamps? Making butter? Huh. Now this president done put out an executive order talking about restoring truth and sanity to American history. Well, baby, that's an oxymoron. Ain't never been truth nor sanity in the annals of American history. I am American history. And he need to keep his stubby little tangerine tips off of me. Not only did I free peoples of this nation from its tyranny, I helped free this nation from its tyranny. It was my intelligence gathering at Combahee Ferry that guided 3 steamboats with black soldiers to set fire to plantations, destroy infrastructure, and seize thousands of dollars and food and supplies from the Confederacy, helping to bring the Union to a success. This was possible not just because of my immense skills, but because of the network I had already laid in place, freeing my folks. Y'all see what's happening? Do y'all hear it? They're trying to erase me, you, your mama, and your cousin too. It's going to be up to y'all to not let that happen. It's going to be up to y'all to make sure that happens. They can take me off the internets, but they can't take me out your blood. Remember and resist. 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 That is a message from our ancestors that spoke through me this morning, and I wrote it and delivered it for y'all. And I hope you heard it loud and clear. AmandaLand. PSA. You know, there's something that is someone just asked, why did I think that was live? It was live. I just did that just now. This is my scarf. It was live. Some may think that that message was for Black people. Some may think that that message was simply for Black Americans. But I want to make it abundantly clear that the protection and the preservation of Black American culture and identity is globally important. And I know that it may seem at this point that America does not deserve protection, that the people of America do not preserve protection, the people of the United States do not preserve protection. And I know that other nations are looking at us and they're like, why would y'all want protection from us? I would venture to say that the level of contributions that Black Americans have given to the world by nature of not just our art, but of our resistance, of our strength, etc., they have to continue to be upheld. And for the Black Americans who are listening, I think what needs to happen is you need to listen to how the rest of the world regards us. You know, when you go overseas, that's where our Black musicians still make their money, overseas. Because they still see the wonderment, the beauty, the depth in our work. Folks in Paris are staying up till like 3 a.m. in the morning to watch the NBA. Folks overseas are wearing Tupac shirts to this day. It's here that we ourselves take ourselves for granted. We take our history, we take our culture for granted, and we take the community that we were born out of for granted, so much so that we are continuously forsaking it for access into a community that does not want us. What I ask of you all here in the United States and abroad is to continue honoring and to begin doing so. Not just for our ancestors like Harriet Tubman, but the folks who are here now. There's a reason, and it's very deeply concerning to me, why we don't see enough resistance fighters and revolutionaries on the cover of Black media. Why do we not know the faces and names of those who are fighting Cop City? Why do we not know the faces and names of all of these folks who are standing up for Palestine and doing so from a globalist perspective? Why do we only know their names because they're being doxxed, not because they're being protected? Why don't we know the faces and names of the folks who are leading these organizations that continue to provide mutual aid, that continues to uplift Black people? Why do we not know the faces and names of the archivists who are continuing to preserve Black culture? We don't celebratize these people because we don't celebrate them. And it is our failure to do so that finds us in a crisis of culture, in the midst of a crisis of constitution. And so everybody, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, etc., Northern, Northern Islander, Pacific Islander. I hope that you see and hear what I'm saying, because there's an absolute effort to erase. And I'm deeply concerned that the young people, the old people, the rich people, that they don't really understand what we could be losing and what the world would be losing. And it's going to require those who get it to protect it. PSA. Ooh, child. This was a great episode. Man, show your love. Show your love. Drop a super in that chat, y'all. Show your love. If you haven't subscribed, do so. Show your love. I say, hit me with the cash app, baby. Drop a super, baby. Shout out to Portia for coming through, repping in Portugal, and she's showing you how you can do it if you wanna move and groove. Obrigada. Show your love. Show your love. Show your love, 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 love. Now, next week, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be showing some love to myself. But I'm going to be giving you all an assignment tomorrow that I hope you will engage in. So if you don't make it to tomorrow's class, please make sure to replay and rewatch, which you should do every day anyway, so that you can make sure to participate in the assignment. Now, I'm also asking, can someone, again, volunteer to share the link for the upload, because we had that last one with Sandy, but I don't know if she's going to be available. So I appreciate everybody. This has been a great show. Hello from Alaska. Yo, we got an Alaska. We got an Alaska on the board. We got an Alaska. We got an Alaska. Yay! I'm so proud of us. We got an Alaska. That is so dope. Oh, you know what? Actually, somebody in the comments said yesterday that they were watching from Honduras. I forgot that. So let me add a Honduras. Yes, they said they were watching from Roatan, Honduras. We are global and worldwide with it, y'all. Global and worldwide. Everyone, thank you for joining us for another edition of Views from AmandaLand. Remember, we do this every morning, Monday through Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here at Amanda Seales TV. Please subscribe. Please replay the episode. And if you really like what we're doing, please come on over and subscribe to patreon.com, Amanda Seales. It is time for our 30 seconds of stillness. Remember, lift up those who are with us, who are fighting, who are in it. And I want to thank everybody who has dropped a super in the chat for supporting this work, which is what I'm doing to fight and to be in it. And I have to tell y'all, sometimes I wonder if I'm doing enough. And you guys really help to lift me up and empower me and to remind me about just how absolutely imperative it is that we do this education work and that we create these spaces of togetherness and community and learning. And as Andrea all the way over there in Portugal says, go outside and touch grass on this Earth Day, which is a perfect way to go into our 30 seconds of stillness. Have a good one, y'all. 30 seconds of stillness. Oh, come on. Okay, let me do it again. 30 seconds of stillness. I enjoyed laughing and learning with you. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell your friends. Also, listen to the podcast. It's available everywhere pods are casted. Listen ad-free by subscribing to Patreon Amanda Seals. Come on and join the Seals Squad. Views from AmandaLand, live 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Wednesday, with content on Thursday and Friday at YouTube Amanda Seals TV.